Another winter has come and gone, and once again we've had a winter where the next season is make or break. Ever was it thus. New starting gate rules, new tactical substitute rules for the top two divisions. Problems at Cradley, who really need and deserve to have a home of their own, but at least they have a fantasy team for the national trophy. But will they support it? And problems and sadness at Coventry, who really need and deserve their home back. But at least they have National League racing, and Leicester. But will they support it? Poole, Newcastle and Birmingham will be the champions. I will mix up Premiership and Championship at least 3 times every show. But for now I'm really excited and looking forward to a new season. We will make new friends, we will make enemies. We will have moments of sheer joy and some of despair. We will both agree and disagree with refereeing decisions. But most of all, we will say time and time again, only in Speedway. I should have mentioned actually, shouldn't I? And also, Webby will cock it up at least 3 times a show. What are you doing, mate?
Me, I don't cock nothing on, mate, nothing.
Hello everybody, how you doing, Matt? We haven't seen you since last year.
No, you haven't. Yeah. That's right, yes.
We like to keep it that way, to be fair.
Yeah, that suits me as well. So.
Webby, how are we doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good stuff.
Gorgeous as normal.
Well, we have you on camera too, so everybody can have their own mind about that. Have we got a show for you tonight?
Have we?
I don't know. Have we got a show?
Just about.
And that's just in homage to the great Ken Dodd there.
Yes.
Okay. New season. We all excited, guys?
Looking forward to it, yep. Yeah. Should be interesting, to say the least.
Obviously at Birmingham, it's a season of all newness. We got
venturing into the unknown a little bit. So.
Yeah. Obviously, the last time this happened, a certain Mr. Alan Phillips, excuse me, it didn't go so well, did it? So, but I just get a feeling that there's a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of.
The good thing, I suppose, is that the guy that's taken over the job is a Speedway man.
So yeah. And also Lee Kirby's very much a Speedway man as well.
He's really impressed me with what I've heard from and seen from him. So
yeah, he wanted desperately to be on the show tonight, but unfortunately for us, Swindon have got their press and practice today. So
that's right.
He's dealing with that. So yeah, we have got a show tonight, but what we want mostly is. Predictions off you guys, because normally we sit here and we pontificate on who we think is going to win and who's going to lose, and then by the end of the season we've got it totally wrong again. So I mean, I sort of did a throwaway thing where I said Poole, Newcastle and Birmingham will be champions, but I just literally picked three names out of the hat, so we want to know your thoughts on who's going to win in each division. And why? What are the strengths of particular teams? And perhaps let's go for a wooden spoon as well this year. That'd be an interesting. So yeah, we really want your thoughts on that. Also, we would love your questions for Steve Williams, who's going to be coming on the show later. To do, he's a Speedway physiotherapist. He works at Birmingham. I think he has worked. I don't know whether he's still working at Bellevue.
Is that normal for a physiotherapy therapist to work at different clubs now? Is that like a normal thing?
Write the question down and you can ask him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Just thought you might know.
Yeah. I know everything, but I'm not telling you.
You know nothing.
Ever was it thus? Okay, so we'll start the ball rolling, I think, with the GPs. Mm-hmm. So I think you've got the lineup there.
I have.
Let's go through the lineup for us.
Well, we've got Jason Doyle, of course, defending the title that he won in style last year. Patrick Dudek had a fabulous debut season last year. Ty Woofenden, Magic Janowski, Bartosz Smarslik, Emil Sayfutinov, Matty Furyan, Freddie Lindgren, Martin Vashalik, who we're looking forward to seeing in the UK this year with Leicester.
Yep.
Chris Holder, Greg Hancock, once again back for another season. I think he's 24th season. I think.
How old is he now?
46.
46.
47 I think actually.
47,
So,
yeah.
Nicky Pedersen, surprisingly I think back in the series
Surprised
again.
me, yeah.
Shamit Pavlichki, Artem Bliguta, and of course Craig Cook making his first
Yeah.
stab at full-time GP racing.
Big step up for him, do you think?
It's a big step up. It's
Yeah.
going to be interesting to see how he gets on. To be honest,
I mean, what he's good at, of course, is getting out the gate.
yeah, that's right. It's whether he's got the speed, and of course, as we saw a couple of years ago with his little tap dance with Freddie Lindgren, he's not very keen on having tough first bends, and he's going to get a lot of those in the GP.
Yeah, certainly is, yeah.
So I hope he gets used to it and brings all these toys from his crash to every Grand Prix. No, I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
I hope he does well. I mean, let's be honest. It'd be great for him to do well, just from a British Speedway perspective, because Ty Woffington doesn't ride in this country, and it's a great shame that he doesn't. And I'm certainly not apportioning any blame to anybody for why that is, because I don't know the ins and outs of why it is, but. He doesn't seem to be showing any inclination to want to come and race over here, which is not good for us. In this country.
Unfortunately, with the way that the regulations were set this year, it was very unlikely he was going to be back with the one rider over 8 point rule, which I'm not a big fan of, to be honest. But you got to get on with it.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's talk about that. The sort of received wisdom seems to be that it was brought in really as a move because we hadn't got television money and to keep the price down. Of course, we have got television. BT have come back in now, haven't they?
A reduced deal from what
we
had
reduced
Sky,
deal,
of course.
obviously, yeah. Probably a reduced deal from what I did as well. So I don't know, is it a good move? Is it a bad move? For Speedway, I'm talking about, not just for Wolverhampton.
Well, it's better than no TV at all, to be honest, I suppose, in terms of the TV deal. But obviously, it was. It's left a lot of the clubs, especially the clubs that did well last season, where they've had to maybe ditch one rider.
Swindon being the
obviously losing Jason Doyle, which was a big financial,
Was you surprised that they chose the route that they went and didn't go with Jason Doyle?
I am surprised, to be honest, because I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced Nick Morris is a number one yet, even in a watered down league. Same with us, of course. Obviously, having to make the decision between Freddie and Jakob,
and the same with Birmingham as well, because we JPB. Daniel Hume, I love. Tom Bacon, I love, but all three you couldn't.
Oh, that's right.
You couldn't get all three, but JPB was sort of the main man last year. So that was an interesting decision. Was it right or was it wrong? I don't know.
Well, we'll find out, won't we, over the course of the next few months?
Yeah. Well, obviously, I mean, I love the riders that we've got in place. Mitchell Davey, I wanted him riding for us last year, if I'm honest, but. So we'll see how. Yeah.
Can I just come in? I've missed the last question, but because I was doing something else. But just to backtrack, Connor Brown says, "I don't like the rule. You're losing fan favourites."
So this is the 8 point rule, I presume. I guess
that's been the case for a long time, though, isn't it? You always have to lose your fan favourite.
That's the problem with one of the problems with Speedways. You don't keep riders, which. It makes it difficult for you a team sport is all about team loyalty, and for fans to be loyal to a team, they've got to have the same faces, or a lot of you do need new faces as well, because that creates excitement in itself. But but if it's a case of they couldn't afford it, you do have to cut your cloth according to the money that you've got, don't you? So. We shall see on that score. My guess is if you get good racing, you'll get good crowds. If you get competitive racing, and I think I was mentioning it before, particularly I guess in the I'm going to get this wrong again. The Premiership, I guess that the teams look fairly even, and You mentioned earlier, actually, Leicester look very strong.
It's definitely the strongest team Leicester have had, even in the days when they were in the second tier. It's an important season for Leicester. They need to start kicking on now. They can't afford another season of scrabbling near the foot of the table.
So we'll have a little chat about. So I think Paul are looking strong. Somerset obviously have got Jason Doyle back. Be interesting to see how that affects their crowds.
Well, he was popular when he rode for them before, so. And I mean, at the end of the day, if you've got the world champion in your side, it's going to be a big.
Absolutely, I mean, it's going to help with sponsorship and everything, isn't it? You would have thought. I mentioned. What about Swindon?
Well, obviously, Swindon losing Jason Doyle is a blow for them, I suppose. Are they as strong as they were last year?
Nobody's as strong as they were last year.
That's the
conundrum, isn't it? That's why it's difficult to.
I think they'll be a playoff team, Swindon. Whether they'll repeat last season's.
Just very quickly. Hello, Tomo. He wants to know if we're getting these on the chat box on the website. Yes, we're receiving them loud and clear.
There you go.
Carry on.
Thank you, Tomo.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. What were we talking about? So, just totally lost the plot there. Talking about Swindon, who famously last year predicted the wooden spoon. So, who shall we predict for the wooden spoon this year? Well, actually, what I'm doing is saying, who shall you? I'm not going to get involved in this. You can get all the hate mail.
Hate mail? That's a bit strong, isn't it? I think when you look at all the sides in the Premiership, for me, the weakest side, standout side, are Rye House.
Right.
Max Clegg, Stuart Robson, Edward Kennett, Ben Barker, Scott Nichols, Chris Harrison, Christoph Kasperjak. I don't think that's it's. To me, they look the weakest of the sides in the Premiership. Obviously, as the season goes on, they may well make changes. They've got a lot of experience in their side. Obviously, Bomber and Nichols and Stuart Robson, Edward Kennett, all vastly experienced riders.
I guess you'd have to say, I'm just thinking about it, there's a Brummie team there, isn't it?
Yeah, there is actually. I was just looking at that. Yeah, they've all apart from Robbo and Max Clegg and all the others, and Scott Nichols as well. All the others have been for Birmingham, haven't they? So.
In the same team, I think as well. Just pick that up. I think a lot depends on the sort of season Kasperzak has, because he's so hot and cold.
Well, he did well for them last season, didn't he? After obviously leaving Poole under a bit of a cloud. I don't think it helped matters when he went back to Poole after he'd left and got a big score when they.
Because he went in at reserve, there, didn't they? So.
Well, that says it all. No, I think I look at Rye House and I don't see them. I don't think they're going to do much on the road. They'll probably hold their own at Hodgson, but whether they're going to do much on the road is. I mean, they were the two matches the Wolves had against Rye House last season were two of the best matches of the season. Some great racing. They've got a lot of riders who ride them on the ground quite well, to be honest. So, well, I don't know whether they've got the strength in depth to be able to challenge the better sides.
Well, can I just say, and this is very, very important to any Rye House fans listening, he said it, not me. Just get that out. Yes.
Can I also just say we've got two chat boxes running, one on Facebook and one online on our website srbradio.com, and there's two very good questions, one from each chat box if you want me to go through them. I think one is Brummies, talking about the Brummies. Can we stay attentive when Steve Williams is talking today, unlike last week when many people rudely got up and started talking? Ooh.
I was there. I was there.
No?
I'm not sure as I witnessed that, so maybe I don't know. I can tell you as I listened very closely to what he was saying.
Mark Clark says, "Come on, the Aces." John Balmer says, "Who are your champions in each of the leagues, team and top riders?" Well, that's a good one for maybe later.
Yep, it is. But what we want to know is who are your top teams?
Yep.
Who are your top riders?
Okay.
So you guys put that out on the chat box. Because then we don't get the blame. We're cowards. Wolves bottom, worst number one and worst reserve, says Tomo. Would you like to come back on that one? Because I remember last year you came in here, the beginning of the season, and you was pretty glum. You didn't think you was going to have a very good season.
And then we changed the team around.
Well, yes, but that's always a possibility in
so
Speedway, isn't it? So,
I think reserves. I think we've definitely got the weakest reserves in the division. In Nathan Greaves and Ashley Morris. Nathan Greaves had a tremendous season last year, but whether he's ready to make the step up to be a number 6 as opposed to being number 7, I'm not so sure. And the same with Jakob Torsell as well. Brilliant season last year, but it's easy to forget he rode all of last season at number 4, which is a easier position than riding in a heat leader position.
Yeah.
Big step up for him too, and he's got some big shoes to fill as well in Freddie Lindgren. So I think he'll be okay at home. I think he's capable of beating the very best riders around Monmouth Green. It's going to be whether he can do the business away from home. I mean, the good thing I suppose with our team is that we've kept the bulk of last season's team as well, where there was a really good team spirit. Carl Howard's back, Sam Masters is back, Rory Schline's back. Of course, he's taken over as captain. I think he impressed the promotion in the run into towards the end of last season when he had to step in as captain towards the end of the campaign with his motivational skills. Cameron Heaps is a bit of an interesting one because I wonder how much is that he's actually down to Rory Schline as well, because they're quite close friends. We'll see.
You're struggling hard here. You're trying to be.
I'm trying to think off the. Trying to think off the battle, and I'm struggling here.
So you don't think you're going to finish last then? Well, you've already said that.
No, I don't think we'll finish. I don't think we'll finish bottom, but I think we might just fall short of the place. I think. I think we'll be okay at home. It's whether we can get the results on the road. But I suppose that's the case with all the sides.
So a couple of questions come up. First of all, John Bulmer's this to me. He says, "Don't bottle it, GA. You wasn't that much of a wimp on STS. Does anybody here know what STS is?"
Speedway
Turbo Sliders. It's
Sliders.
A brilliant game.
I've got a great question. How do you switch your phone on?
Watch.
I didn't think they still did the phones like that.
What, the house bricks?
He's trying to nick my telephone number. That's what it is. I'm guessing he's talking about predictions. Well, we will stick our neck out towards the end of the show. Don't worry. But we want to hear what you guys have got to say first, so we can ridicule you instead of you ridiculing us. That's the plan. Connor Brown. Oh, well done, Connor. I think Roy looks strong at home, and they brought back most of the team from last year that just missed out on the top 4. So I
think they look good. I think they look okay at home. It's whether they'll get the results on the road.
Okay, but I mean they've got fairly experienced riders in there. So
they've got experienced riders. There's no doubt about that. I don't know. They might prove me wrong. It's just I'll just look at that side and I think, is it going to get many points away from home? Because you need to be able to pick up results away from home. You can't just rely on being good at home to get in the playoffs.
Okay, well, we shall see. Richard Hill has said, "How do you think JPB will go at Glasgow?" I think he's ready to make that step up now. Do you? Into the Get Right Championship?
Yep. I think he is. Yeah, it's a big season for him. I was a bit surprised that he's gone to Coventry in the National League. Yeah. I mean, I have to say they look a good side. Well, I suppose they need to have a good side, really. If they're going to keep the supporters from going over there. I've got my doubts about that, to be honest, but I think that's a debate for later on.
I think JPB will probably... Richard, if you're from Glasgow, I think you've got a good one there. The only thing I'll say is give him time to work the track out and all the rest of it. But he's a really good rider. He can get out in the dirt. He can go up the white line if he needs to. A lot of talent there. Of course, it's a big year for JPB for other reasons as well. He's just got a new family and moved into a new house.
That's right.
So he might look a bit bleary-eyed. We shall see. So, I mean, whether that's going to change anything, it has the possibility of doing it.
But Darren Varney says, now I could spice this up, but he says, how is that Wolves team any better than Rye House? Or I could say, how is that Wolves team any better than Rye House?
You could, but I wouldn't bother.
I wouldn't bother.
Well, over to you.
I think we've got more of a home track advantage.
That's
That's me effectively saying Monmore Green is a trick track.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just going to savour that. I've never actually ever heard that anybody said that somebody's got a better home track advantage than Rye House.
So I think Rye House can be beaten at Hudson as well. I think the better sides will go there and win. The sides like Poole, Leicester as well. I mean, I was to say Leicester. I mean, this is the strongest team they've had, in my opinion.
Yeah. Their Achilles heel, of course, is their track, or it has been in the past. Maybe we shall see. What are your views on Coventry in the National League at Leicester? It's sad. It's the first thing. I don't know how to get my head around this. There's a lot of Coventry supporters out there saying they're just not going to support the team. Now, if it's too far for them to travel and all of that side of it, I can understand that.
It's a 60-mile round trip,
yeah,
so
yeah,
it's not as if it's just up the
exactly.
road.
So I can understand if that's your reason for not going. That's a reasonable reason. But it's not the reason many of them are citing. There seems to be some sort of problem for many Coventry supporters with Mick Horton. They don't like him, essentially. Some of them seem to blame him for what's happened at Coventry, and I don't see how the hell you can... how that makes no sense to me whatsoever. There also seems to be an opinion that by going to Leicester, it's sending out the wrong signals to, is it Brandon Estates?
Yeah.
That they don't think that they can get back into Brandon, and that it'll actually help prevent them going back to Brandon just by going somewhere else. I don't know the ins and outs of that, but it seems it seems surely if there's a team there being supported well, there's more chance of you being able to say, well, the support's there, we need to get back in. I don't know.
Are there actually any hopes of getting back to Brandon? I always thought it's dead, that's it. Finished.
I don't know. There's all sorts of shenanigans going on at the moment, isn't there? And I think very soon there's a council meeting to do with the planning permission. And
I hope you got your objection in. So
I did, yes.
I did, yep.
Yeah.
So
objecting to the planning permission.
a
lot will depend on what goes on with that, won't it? I guess.
My concern really is that I know a lot of the Coventry fans are saying they won't go to Leicester. The other thing I suppose you could say as well is that they weren't the Coventry Storm matches weren't particularly well supported at Brandon, but at the same time they also had top flight racing as well. Now they've got nothing, so I think the interesting one at Coventry will be their second meeting there, because I think you'll get a good crowd for the first one, right, for the novelty value. You may well get some Leicester fans going along as well to watch National League racing. But I've got my doubts. To be honest. I think it's a big ask for Coventry. I mean, the most important thing, of course, is Coventry have got a team that's running, representing them in league racing, because last season was obviously difficult for them, only having challenge matches, which were well supported by the Coventry fans. Fair play to people like Jeff Davis. I mean, Jeff Davis is the key. He's the big pusher behind the Safe Coventry Speedway group, and he said as long as he believes there's a chance that Coventry can get back to Brandon, he's going to keep going. So I think I know certainly the Brummies fans and the Crowley fans who've been without a track for over 20 years will wish Coventry all the very best in getting back to Speedway, because we've all seen the footage, the racing footage from Brandon. It's really a really sad state now. But one of Speedway's great venues is been allowed to
well, the
fall
history
into.
that place is unbelievable, isn't it, from a Speedway point of view? Something that you don't get very often in Speedway, a track with lots of history, because we're sort of nomadic sport, aren't we? Got a few comments. I'm trying to rattle through these because we're going to talk to Mr. Physiotherapist, whose name I've forgotten, and I've got it written down but can't see it.
Steve Williams. Steve
Williams, thank you very much. God.
Good job on me.
So, yeah, in so many ways. Lynn Whittaker, we're Bellevue, but without Coventry Bees in the league, it wouldn't be the same. Well, I mean,
it is difficult it is difficult picturing a league that doesn't have Coventry in it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom Vickery says, whilst you've got a team to support, stick with the team. Unfortunately, us people living in Exeter have nothing apart from an hour journey to Plymouth or an hour to Burnham to watch Somerset. Well, as a Birmingham supporter, I certainly understand that situation. Connor Brown, I'm a Coventry fan as well as my dad, and we will go to see the Bees ride and keep them going. Well done, Connor.
Good man.
So we're just going to put a little bit of music on now. I'll just chuck that on at Webby to see if he's awake.
Thank you.
And then we'll be coming back with Steve Williams. So get your questions for Steve Williams. Okay.
To have it all to the tingling time, I would lie down yet rest wild inside. We'll cure the disease, but we'll stay alive. It's all perspective. Some others say that it's not a sign. You'll disagree.
Well, that didn't last very long, did it?
No.
We've sorted out our technical problems, and are you there, Steve?
Yes.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, put the headphones on.
Put the cans on.
Put the headphones on.
Hello, Steve.
Hiya.
That's brilliant. Fantastic. Right, so what was your question, Webber? You had a question that you said earlier that you wanted to... Let's get that.
Well, he won't be able to hear me from here, but it's regarding whether is it normal that one physiotherapist covers more than one club. That was it. So,
as I understand it, Steve, you're the Birmingham physiotherapist, but you also do a few other clubs as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm only Birmingham's physiotherapist at the moment.
Right.
I actually started in 2004 at Bellevue, and Birmingham weren't operating then. And when Birmingham opened again in 2007, obviously the fact it was my hometown. And it was a heck of a lot closer than travelling to Bellevue every week was. There was an opportunity to work at Birmingham as well. And because they rode on different nights in different leagues, there was no problem at all, really. There's no issues about working with different teams, because when riders are injured, they have to go and get treatment, have to go and see physios, and whether they saw me as a Birmingham physio or as a Bellevue physio or went somewhere else, didn't really matter. So yeah, it worked out fine until I left Bellevue in 2012, and since then it's just been Birmingham only.
Do other clubs have physiotherapists? Is that a normal thing for a Speedway club?
No, it's as far as I'm aware, there are no other physios working with Speedway teams, which I do find quite amazing. I've worked in different sports. I've been a physiotherapist for 32 years now, and I've run my own practice for the last 25. But I've worked in football, I've worked in basketball, I've worked in ice hockey. And what always amazed me was that the type of injuries that happen in those sports were really minuscule compared to the injuries you often get in Speedway. If you think of people getting fractured femurs, that doesn't happen too often in the football world, but it certainly happens quite a lot in Speedway. So I always thought, why doesn't the Speedway world have teams with physios? So no, I was always amazed, and nobody else seems to have got into it either. So it's a fairly unique position, but I just think at the end of the day that maybe there aren't that many physios who want to get involved in Speedway. I was a fan before I got involved as working as a physio, so perhaps I had a slightly more biased opinion.
Okay. So what interests me then is that If you look at like football and these other sports that you mentioned, there seems to be a sort of knowledge base built up that the players and each team get a knowledge base built up of how to look after themselves, stretching exercises, etc., etc. From looking from the outside in, that doesn't seem to happen so much in Speedway.
No, it's again, it's something that is one of the many things that sets Speedway apart from so many other sports. Apart from the danger element, that people really don't have a team approach to anything. Riders are very much individuals. There's other than the track walk that you see the lads do together, most of everything else is with individuals. There's no real sort of decision making on shall we all have a warm up or would you rather sit in the corner and just concentrate. There isn't really a set pattern for anything. The treatment of injuries, nothing's very often organised by the clubs. Tends to be left to riders to sort their own problems out. So it is a bit unique in that respect. It certainly could be a lot better, but I think it's like a lot of things in Speedway. It still tends to have ideas which are really well behind the times to where the sport should have progressed. So it's a bit sad in that respect, but what you've said is completely true.
And so I'd be interested to know then if you had, I mean, I noticed you talking to to a couple of young riders on the forum the other day, and it looked to me like you was giving them some advice. What sort of advice would you give to new riders to help look after this problem?
Well, I think it's interesting that there's definitely a push to try and educate riders with respect to diet and things like that. But as far as I'm aware, there's not much happening in terms of saying, well, when you get injury, these are the things that you should do. A lot of the typical things that happen is if people hurt themselves, they still don't really know if they've twisted their knees. Should they put heat on it? Should they put ice on it? Should they move it? Should they rest it? Should they go and get an X-ray? Should they not get an X-ray? And I think that trying to get people to sort of do the right things from the beginning, and of course the best place with any point that you're trying to get across is to start with the younger people. It sometimes works the different way with riders who've been around for a long time because they're in a better position, shall we say, financially to go and see people and get help and maybe go and get private treatment, go and see a private consultant. But with youngsters, they really don't know where they're going with a lot of things, and it's very much hit and hope. Possibly mums and dads try and throw a few ideas there. But I'd like to think that the way we do things at Birmingham is that when people find the next morning they're in trouble and struggling with their aches and pains, that they tend to ring me and say, OK, I've got this, what do I do?
Right.
Most of the time it tends to be, why didn't you call me earlier? That's the normal thing. But there have been riders who are very good in that respect. I certainly remember Martin Smolinski, when he rode for Birmingham, hurt himself at Wolverhampton one night and actually phoned me up and said, can I come after the meeting? So sort of turned up at my surgery at 11 o'clock at night, and it's I'd rather people do that than get in a mess. But I suppose we should say what the official closing time is in terms of just popping in after a meeting. But no, I'm very much don't leave it because you don't know what's wrong with you. Get it checked out. So, but that's another case of somebody who's not a young kid, somebody who's been around for a while and has a much better concept of looking after himself. So it's trying to educate as well, really, is not just treat injuries.
We've got a question on our shout box from one of our listeners. Tomo wants to know who are some of the more famous people you have worked on. Apparently there's a rumour in Aldridge that Ozzy Osbourne was once spotted leaving Europe.
No, that was probably Fred Osborne, who was a taxi driver. No, it's funny that people always say, "Have you ever treated anybody famous?" And on my waiting room wall when people come in, a lot of the pictures over the years I've collected of, well, not just collected, but people have given them to me and put them on the wall, and I call it either the Hall of Fame or the Wall of Shame, and it's got a collection of various people, not just speedway riders, motocross riders, quad bike riders, BMX, but various people it's amazing how many ways you can hurt yourself by falling off things. But the other day, it first happened. Somebody who was a show jumper came in and bought me a picture which he'd signed thanking me for helping him. And it was like, where the heck am I going to put this picture of a chap riding a horse surrounded by all these people on speedway bikes, motocross bikes, without looking a bit odd?
Right.
So, in terms of famous, do you mean famous in life or just famous in the speedway world?
I can't tell you, unfortunately. That was the question. But I mean, either
Oh,
or.
right.
Either or.
Well, certainly I know that Ty Woofenden won't mind me mentioning his name. I did ask his permission about 3 years ago when I treated him. Did he ever mind if I quoted that he'd been for me for treatment? He's been, Jason Doyle's been, Freddie Lindgren's been, Chris Harris has been, Martin Smolinski's been. So all of these people are all quite happy for me to say. I wouldn't like to think I was breaching patient confidentiality. But it's not really just about the name zone being famous. The way I view it is, it doesn't matter if you're a novice having his first ride in the MDL. You know, your injuries, as far as I'm concerned, are just as important. Just the same as if you're a lorry driver and you can't go to work because you fractured your ankle. It's just as important to that person. So I don't make a special mentality for speedway riders. It's the same principles of doing your best for people anyway. That's my love. People often say to me, "Oh, would you ever ride a speedway bike?" And it's like, no thanks, I've seen too many people get hurt. It's the last thing I'd want to do, or ride a BMX bike or ride a motocross bike. My own views, just me, I don't need adrenaline. I get the buzz from getting people back fit. That's my buzz.
Fantastic.
So I'm happy with that.
You mentioned at the forum that you're getting involved in research. I mean, we noticed that a lot of the riders have different contraptions around their neck and so on for trying to help with, I guess that's like whiplash problems. So yeah, if you could mention a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's something I actually feel quite strong about with that, is when you talk to riders about their protective gear, one of the things that used to hit me was the gloves that they wear are horrendous. When you look at the amount of wrist injuries, hand injuries, finger injuries, scaphoid injuries, they're so common, but the gloves that they wear are essentially, they're about as much use as a pair of socks. They are useless for protection. But when you start sort of saying to them, well, why don't you wear something, a bit more protective? Then they give you this comment about, well, I like to feel free, I like to have the movement in my hands. And I'm still kind of struggling to get my head around why they can't get something slightly better. But something that's more far-reaching than just hand injuries, which aren't going to paralyse you. The thing about neck braces is that nobody tends to think of anything until somebody breaks their neck. And the most recent injury that obviously happened that we all know about as Speedway fans is what happened to Darcy Ward.
Yeah.
And I always think if one rider breaks his neck, it's one too many. It was a big thing because obviously he was a relative superstar. And so I started looking at, shouldn't all riders wear neck braces? And the ones that do, which ones are the best ones? The ones that don't, why don't they wear them? Are they still looking at that? We want to have more movement. We want to be flexible. Nobody buys a cheap crash helmet because they all say, oh, well, how much is your head worth? But at the end of the day, how much is your spinal cord worth? And if you break your neck and you're in a wheelchair for the rest of your life in your early 20s, and you can't move much from below your shoulders downwards, as is the case with Darcy Ward, that's not much of a life to look forward to.
No.
So I've decided that because it does interest me and I'd like to see that we can do something about it, I'm trying to canvass a lot more knowledge in terms of who wears a neck brace, what types do they use, what research has been done to show that one type is better than another one. And essentially just try and find out more and more, and then really then try and have a bit of a crusade to try and get riders to start wearing them. And of course, coming back to the Thompson twins, if you look at them, they're a good example because they already wear neck braces at their early age, and that's great.
I was also, as you was talking about that and talking about the freedom of movement and so on, excuse me, all the riders these days wear Kevlar suits, which of course they're not actually really Kevlar. They've got a certain amount of Kevlar in them, as I understand it. And to my mind, they don't look as protective as the old leather suits that the riders used to wear when I was a lad.
All them years ago.
Yeah, all those years ago.
Can you remember that far back?
Was that in the days of Jap engines as well? I mean,
yes, I remember Jap engines. Yes, thank you very much.
During the war.
It's a very valid point though, because a lot of the opinion about our Kevlar's better than the old leathers as such when everybody wore black is that Kevlar's light, flexible, tough. Riders are obsessed with this feeling free and flexible, but the amount of Kevlar burns that you can get when you skid along the floor is quite phenomenal, really. When Jason Lyons rode at Birmingham, I don't know how many people knew, but previously when he rode at Bellevue, he had a horrendous crash there when he had some quite horrible Kevlar burns that took quite some time to heal. But I think Kevlar is almost as much, it's just the name now. The interesting thing about Kevlar, and you're quite right, I think a lot of these suits are a mix because they certainly don't handle the same, they don't all look the same, but they're made by different people. But Tom Bacon recently had a shoulder operation, which I'm pleased to say he's doing very well with now, and he's got back to riding. He was one of the lads that went to Macon in France last week. 4 bummy riders went. But I went and watched his operation on an agreement with the surgeon who treated him. And the internal stitching that Tom's had in his shoulders is actually Kevlar, which was quite weird because when the surgeon gave me this stuff, said, have a pull on this and see if this will hold his shoulder together. And it's a bit like, it just looks like blue stuff that's quite tough. And he said, no, it's Kevlar. I said, oh my God, that's what the racing suits are often made of. So I felt like saying to Tom afterwards, well, there's a bit of your racing suit holding you together, Tom. So she'll be all right with that.
Steve, I just need to interrupt you for a second because we've actually got some breaking news that's just been made known to us. So we'll just read this out. Birmingham have been forced to turn to Plan B as they try and complete their team for the last approaching new season. The Edwards Plumbing Brummies have agreed terms with one unnamed rider, but a delayed process beyond the control of both parties means he won't be able to take his place in the starting 7. Team manager Lawrence Rogers explained, we don't want to go into too much detail right now because we're still hopeful we can introduce him into our team at some point this season.
There's more on the website.
There's more about that on the website if guys want to go and have a look at the official website. So there you go. Sorry, Steve, I thought it was quite important to get that out. There's a couple of comments come up on the different chat boxes. Sam Chapman's, this is from Tomo. Sam Chapman's hand injury was horrid. His gloves were no use, and I'm sure Steve remembers that.
Oh yes. Again, it's an interesting point when you look at Sam. Did have a horrible hand injury. He crashed at Plymouth, and basically he had the type of injury where his bones actually came to his palm, which was obviously mighty unpleasant. Ouch. And he'd given up on trying to get fit and right. He lived down in Cornwall, which was a fair old trek, and he did make a heck of a lot of an effort to come up regularly to come and get some treatments. And I know that Harvey Banks, who was around at the time as well, also brought him up a few times. So Sam put a lot of effort into travelling. It showed his keenness to try and get better. I know he stayed with a couple of supporters and would come up for treatment and then stay overnight. And really, both he, I, and I think most of the people connected with the Brummies were quite chuffed when he got back. And it was good for him, really. And when he came back, obviously it was a bit of a, oh my God, I hope his hand holds up and that. But he did okay. He didn't tear up trees. But the thing is that when you ride in the National League and you can't live on the kind of wages that you're getting just riding at that level, and if you can't ride your bike and you can't work as well, and you're trying to make your way forward in the speedway world as a kid, it's tough. But yes, it was a horrible injury. And his first meeting back, I remember I actually went with him to the meeting at Coventry to give him a bit of moral support and just basically try and keep his psychology right. We rode in the 14 final at Coventry, and basically won with a run-off from Adam Ellis in the in a run-off as we tied with Coventry. So it was great for him that he was able to actually come back, and his first meeting back, that was a pretty big one to come back in. But yeah, it was great for him, good for the team, good for me because I was chuffed as anything to see him get back. But it was a horrible injury. There was no doubt about that. And unfortunately, there are some horrible injuries in Speedway. It's a fact of life, but unfortunate.
I remember Jason Crump's injury when he nearly derailed his World Championship bid in 2009 when he came back to ride for Bellevue and he had his skin burn. I mean, I saw the pictures of it and it looked horrific, to be honest. I mean, how he managed to even get his leathers on, never mind.
Well, soon after that, he switched to actual leathers, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Kangaroo leathers. So which sort of says it all. A couple more comments on the shout box. Basically the same comment, really. Paul Lavender said, spot on, they should all be made to wear neck braces. And Connor Brown says, if all the tracks in the league have to have air fences as the league ruled they have to, why can't they do the same with neck braces?
That's a great point. And I'd like to think that in years to come that Speedway will have better measures in place.
Yeah. I mean,
sorry,
you
there.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that Speedway will have better measures in place in lots of things. And yeah, years ago, I mean, air fences didn't exist. Anybody who's old enough to remember Exeter and Halifax, which seemed to have all metal safety fences. And I was interested to see a comment from Lee Kilby about his dad, where he was saying that basically his dad Bob had screwed his knee up at Exeter from a crash when he'd gone into the all-metal safety fence. And I mean, the thought of riding into a fence that's all metal when you're on a super big fast track like Exeter was, and you think to yourself, well, Christ, it's a wonder there weren't more people killed.
Yeah, and you look at other sports, as we mentioned before. I mean, you look at F1 right now. They've just introduced this thing called a halo to help protect the drivers' heads.
Yeah.
And so all sports are pushing forward as far as the safety is concerned, possibly sometimes even to the detriment of the sport, which I know a lot of F1 followers don't like these new halos.
Well, you're absolutely right, and this comes back to the fact that I think a lot of people, we're all Speedway fans at heart, would love things to be safer. We'd love to have lots of things better, but unfortunately in Speedway, coming back to the fact it's quirky, it's also quirky at trying to progress to actually look after its riders. Too often it just gets sort of left to the riders to come up with ideas themselves, which is shocking, really. You may remember an idea that some riders had 2 or 3 years back where they had these blow-up air jackets.
Yes, I was going to mention that, yeah.
And basically that they came from the horse riding world, where what happened was there's a connection between the rider via a little gas canister and onto the handlebars, very much like a cut-off. So if you parted company from your machine, then the gas canister went off and it blew your air jacket up. And of course, everybody always laughed because when the riders got up off the floor, they all looked like Michelin men.
Yeah.
So that idea came in. I know certainly Chris Harris used to ride with one. A couple of other riders did, but it never really caught up. And and I don't think I've seen anybody riding one for years.
I think some of the GP
it's-
stars used them as well, didn't they? I think Valentina also
Yeah,
had one.
but you see, the one of the complaints was, oh, well, the gas canister stuck in my ribs and it hurt my ribs.
Right.
But I think that, again, you mentioned F1. Look at NFL and their mentality as regards concussion. You know, I sometimes think that in Speedway, if you can remember your name and jump up and down, then you're okay.
Yeah.
But
I'd be no good.
without
I can't
wishing to
remember
be
my name most
scathing,
mornings.
Ricky Ashworth is, don't know if anybody's watched any of the videos, but it's pitiful to see the state that Ricky Ashworth's in.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows what happened, but at the end of the day, he'd obviously had quite a lot of falls on his head. And over time, you do worry. And I just think, again, should we be more up to date with how things are protected? But we're back to always saying the same thing. Oh, well, it's Speedway, isn't it? Which
Yeah.
don't think it's a lot of, it's not a lot of good if you finish up with a head injury just because we're saying, well, it's Speedway.
Well, Steve, I could talk to you on this subject for another couple of hours, but unfortunately we're running out of time. So we would love to have you back on the show again someday, though. That's okay.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for inviting me on. It's nice to be able to talk to a wider audience about physiotherapy in Speedway and trying to improve the lot, as it were. But yeah, cheers for the invite. I appreciate it.
No problem. It's been brilliant. And just one last comment from our shout box from Duncan Pemberton. I'm sure you're going to agree with this. Neck braces are as important as cutouts, air fences, and St John's.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just how much is your spinal cord worth?
Exactly. Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks again,
Thanks,
Steve.
Dave.
You take
Thank
care.
Cheers. Thanks now. Bye.
So you take care. Bye bye. Well, that was really interesting.
Yeah,
wasn't
that
it?
was, I think a lot of senses we take that for granted, don't we? And riders take it for granted. But there's nothing more. The most important thing is, of course, your ability to be able to walk away at the end of a meeting.
Well, exactly. But I do think I remember Graham Drury used to say this a lot, and he's not the only one that said this a lot. But
Yeah.
it's sort of phrase that's prevalent. You hear riders say it. You hear promoters say it, which is, oh well, injuries are part and parcel of the sport. I should be saying injuries are part and parcel of the sport. Unfortunately,
Well, that's it. So,
and we're doing what we can to minimise them. Yeah, I mean, you look at, use F1 again. They went through that horrendous period when I think most drivers had a life expectancy of about 4 or 5 years.
that's right.
Yeah, but they've sorted that out. They've
Absolutely,
decided
yeah.
to do something about it, and I think that's what it takes.
I remember
isn't
we
it?
had
Takes
the
will to do
terrible
something about
weekend in
it.
San Marino when, of course, Ratzenberger and Senna lost their lives. So it's just
even from a purely monetary side of it, clubs lose money when they lose riders.
Well, that's right. So
Because fans think, well, there was no point coming now, and that happens.
and it isn't just the inexperienced riders as well. I mean, we've seen Darcy Ward, one of the best riders in the sport, now in a wheelchair. Lee Adams, who rode for 20 years, never got a mark on him, did something for fun, and is now obviously lost the use of one leg. Per Johnson, in the prime of his career, looking very good for that year to win the World Championship, had a crash in Poland. Hasn't walked since. Lee Richardson, of course, lost his life.
Yeah.
So it can happen to any rider. It doesn't matter if you're a GP rider or you're a National League rider or a youth development rider.
We've got a few more. We need to get through some of these comments. John Bulmer, I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say there, so I'm wondering if you could. Is that making any sense? Steve Worrell must be one of the best, if not in middle tier.
If not the best in the middle tier,
Not
I think
best.
that's
Okay, right. Okay.
Top riders.
Yeah.
on the top riders.
And Paul Lavender said, if the ACU bring the rule in, they have to comply. So you need to push the ACU about neck braces. They have brought a new rule into motocross this year that you have to wear body armour.
Yeah.
So I think that's fair comment.
Body armour.
Body armour, yes.
Not with lances and swords and stuff like
You can
that.
just
so.
imagine jousting down there.
Yeah, I was wondering what that suit of armour was in your front room. But,
Yeah, crikey.
That's his pyjamas. Anyway. Yeah, I could go so many places with that. And
Please don't.
Yeah,
Don't go there. Don't go there.
So, okay, we touched on the Grand Prix and we never really made a prediction on it. So we're going to have to do quick predictions now. We've got about 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So, GP, who's your pick? Who do you think?
I think Jason Doyle will win it again.
You reckon?
I think he's in a good place. I think he's in a good place at the moment.
That would be. It's not very many people that do back to back.
Only the best. I mean, I think the last one to do it was Nicky Pedersen 10 years ago. So I do fancy Jason to win it again. I think he's mature. He's 3 or 4 years ago. I would never have had him down as a world champion, but he's really stepped up to the plate.
Not Dudek.
Second season syndrome for Dudek, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's not going to be the surprise. Well, to say surprise package. I mean, most of the riders would have known about him anyway, riding in Poland, but. He's going to fancy his chances. Obviously, hopefully, Ty can. He didn't really step up to the plate last season. I don't think was a bit inconsistent.
Yeah,
but
I think he would. I think he would admit to that. I think that he's.
Yeah, I think there were other things going on in his life. Obviously, building a new house and a young family and things like that. So, but I'll go for Jason Doyle to win it again.
Okay. Just because I think you're right. Actually, that's exactly what I was going to go for. But there's also, as an outside bet, I think Schmarzlik might.
Well, I tipped Schmarzlik to win it last year. He had a poor start and never really recovered from that, did he? So he's good enough to win it. And I think it's only going to be a matter of time for one of these young Poles.
Of course, there's a rider in there that 5 or 6 years ago. Is it really that long ago? Probably is. Everybody was saying would have been a world champion by now and never managed it, which is Saifutinov, of course. Not a great season, but he got stronger as it went on. So
it's consistency, I think, with Emil. He's good enough to win it, but can he do it on a regular basis?
Well, I guess
if he can, then I certainly wouldn't rule him out. I'm wary about ruling Greg Hancock out because I've done it that many times, but I think
or Nicky Pedersen.
Yeah.
Just quickly, because we're going to close now. Regarding top riders, Connor's gone for Adam Rynan in the NL and Chris Harris in the Championship, and John Crook has gone for Ty for me.
Okay.
There you go.
That'd be great. Great Ty would be great.
Well, yeah, it would be good. It would be good. Right, quick predictions for. Let me get this right way around. Premiership. Who are you going for?
I'm going to be very boring and say Paul.
I'm going to be boring and say Paul. In the Championship,
Peterborough.
Now
they've got Scott Nichols, so I think in that league, I think he'll be a revelation. Don't rule Workington out either.
So that's what I was thinking was Workington.
I think I'm going to go for Peterborough.
Okay, well, I'm going to go, just because you didn't, I'm going to go for Workington.
Okay.
And in the National League, if it's not Birmingham, it'll be
Eastbourne.
Yeah.
Choked on that.
I know, yeah.
Mildenhall.
Possibly. I don't think Belleville will win it again.
And also a quick shout for Somerset in the Championship.
Yeah.
In the Premiership, they did get it right. Yeah. So, okay, that's great. It's been our first show. Hopefully, we'll be back again same time next week, talking about the Brummies fans forum and practice and anything else that you guys want to talk about. Thanks for sharing all your thoughts tonight. Take care. Have a good one.
Good night.
Good night.